Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are beginning our presentation today. We're going to show you how to use the quiz tool and the Nav Bar and the many different features that go along with that. We're also going to show you how to set up your Zoom meeting through iLearn. So that's what we're focusing on today. If you have any questions about our presentation, whether it be the quiz tool or how to schedule meetings in Zoom through iLearn, please put your questions in the Q&A that you can see at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. If you have any other questions about presentations that we conducted early in the week, we have office hours today from 3 to 4. Please join us and we'll answer any questions that you may have. You know, Brian and I were once in your shoes. So, you know, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable moving forward come September. So any questions, please feel free to ask us and we'll be there from 3 to 4. As I mentioned, this is phase 1, session 5. Session 6, which is the last session, will begin next week, and we're going to give you a preview at the end of our presentation what that's going to entail. So if you're just joining us, this is your first day, welcome. If you've been with us and you've met us before, my name is Kimberly Savino. I am an iLearnNYC remote teacher. I began teaching remotely in September, one class. I've been teaching for 21 years. In John Dewey High School. So what was great was in the morning, right in my classroom in Brooklyn, I would teach my class in Queens at Thomas Edison. It was an amazing experience. And then right afterwards, I would have live instruction in my classroom. So sometimes the kids would pop in because they were curious. It was all new to us back in September before COVID. So it's a really great experience. I hold a license in K through 12 for special ed, as well as a psych degree. Brian?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I hope this week's been useful and helpful for you guys. I am also one of the iLearnNYC remote teachers. This past school year, I was honored to be brought on as a full-time forensic science teacher, doing complete remote instruction through iLearnNYC. And I'll be continuing the same capacity this coming school year. Oh, also, I just want to point out very briefly, I've been having a few pop-ups from Zoom saying my connection's weak. I don't know why, because I'm staring at my router. But if at any point I start sounding like I'm freezing or dragging, please just send me a message in the chat so I know to kind of switch my connection or something.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so guys, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go into our sandboxes. So if this is your first time joining us, or you just need a little refresher, I'm going to walk you through how to access your sandbox and in September, your courses. Okay, so we're going to go to iLearnNYC.net. Okay, and you'll see this screen. It says iLearnNYC, and you will log in as if you are logging in to check your DOE email. Same credentials, okay? So you're gonna press on the tab where it says sign in. Okay, in the username, you will put the username that you use to log in to retrieve your DOE email, as well as the same password. So it's exactly the same. You're gonna press sign in. Okay, and you will then see your sandbox. If anyone is having difficulty accessing their sandbox, if you could please drop us a message in the Q&A and we'll be happy to help you. So like I said today, we're going to be focusing on two things, and I'd like to show you those two things very briefly. I'm going to give you an overview, and then Brian later on in our presentation will show you exactly how to create the different assessments. So today, what we're going to do is in your Nav Bar, I want to show you what we're going to be using. We're going to be using this tool right here where it says Toolkit. Okay, and we're going to be using the quiz tool right here. And we're also going to be using this tool right here, this icon, the zoom. Okay, so these are the two we're going to be using for today. So I'm going to go into my toolkit. I'm going to click on quizzes, and I'd like to show you the different assessments that you can give throughout your course, okay, or the lesson. So I'm going to click, I made a few ahead of time, so I just want to demonstrate a few of the different types. There are various different types. And I'd also like to show you the features that go along with it. So I'm giving you a brief overview. Okay? So the first question that you can make, the first type of assessment, is a multiple choice. Okay, so I'm going to click on that just to show you. Just wanted to make it colorful with a picture. So I chose an M&M fraction. Now what you could do, instead of for the kindergarten and first graders, if you don't want to show numbers, you could have pictures. If you're going over, let's say, the alphabet, and you want them to click on a picture that begins with the letter A, you could have pictures here, and they can click on the correct answer. So that's one option. Another type of assessment that you can create during your lesson would be a true-false question. Okay, and that's how it would look. It will grade for you, which is a great feature. Okay, the next feature is a short answer, maybe one or two response words, nothing major. Okay, and the student would put the answer right in here. Now another choice of assessment, which could be used across the board, would be your order. From least to greatest, let's just say. What's the first step? What would be the second step? What would be the third step? So this is a great feature, and then you could just put them in order, and that's how it would look. If you wanted a longer response, you would choose an assessment, a written response assessment, where they would have to give more detail, maybe a few sentences, one or two. Okay, so look at the two cakes below. Which cake would you want for your birthday, and why did you choose this cake? Okay. Now, another option is a matching. So I have two fractions here, and I want the students to tell me which number matches with the correct number, which picture matches with the correct number. All right, so those are the different types of questions that we can create for our assessments. Now, assessments, when you see the quiz tool, people immediately say, well, Kim, it says quizzes. I only can make quizzes. That's not true. It's a quiz, quote unquote, quiz tool, but you can make different assessments. I've used it for do now questions. I've used it for exit tickets. I've used it in the middle of a lesson if I want to see if the kids are getting it. I'm going to be using it to create exams, because Brian's going to show you what you can do with this tool when creating exams. Now, I also could put restrictions on it. So let's just say I want a timed quiz, timed assessment, okay? I want to give them, let's just say 20 minutes. So I will give it the start date, the end date, and the exact time. So they can't start before, and then they'll only have a limited time to do it. And that's where this comes in, okay? You could have a recommended time, or if you want to say, listen, I'm only giving you 5 minutes to complete this, it's an enforced time, and then it will shut them down. Okay, you can also show the clock. The special access area is for those with IEP 504 who get extended time. Okay, and finally, I like this piece right here. Okay, two pieces in particular. Here is the student will see, as soon as it's graded, they'll be able to see their answers and their grade. And I also like this feature right here, the attempts allowed. So let's just say I'm covering a difficult topic, and I want to see if they understand it. I might give them more than one attempt, and then I will grade and count the highest score. Okay, so those are the various features. Here you have your objectives where you can place your different learning objectives. And then the report setup, we will get to at a later time. That has to do with the gradebook, and that's in the upcoming phases. Okay, so Brian's going to show you now how to actually create the different types of assessments for your class.
Thanks, Kim. All right, so I have my own little mini agenda for this section. First thing I'm going to do is just show you another example of a quiz tool assignment, so you can get a little bit of a feel for what to do with it. And then we're going to build two quizzes together. I will then actually take one of the quizzes as a student, and then I'll show you the place where you would go to grade a quiz for anything that might be ungraded. And I want to reiterate, this really is the most important part, that again, quiz tool is the name, or quizzes. You don't only create quizzes. To repeat, I was a forensic science teacher, but I used that very same quiz tool to create everything that in classroom might have been a handout or on paper. So worksheets, reading questions, video viewing guides, worksheets, labs, in addition to my more formal summative assessments, like a quiz or an exam. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and I'm going to steal the screen share now, and we will walk through creating everything together. Okay, so I just need to close a couple tabs that are kind of hovering over my window so I can see everything. There we go. All right, so as Kim said, we start with our toolkit, and we go to quizzes. And I'm going to show you the chocolate bar fractions practice real quick. So I went into We Teach NYC, and I found 4th grade fractions. There's an entire, like, almost unit just on fractions, and they're all candy related. I had a sugar rush just looking at all the pictures, and I stole some of the activities to show you that you can take what would have been a one-page worksheet that maybe prior to today you were thinking, hey, I got to share this via Google and I have to have the kids make copies. You don't have to do it that way. You can recreate things in here, and it's nice because you don't have your students bouncing around from one place to another. So what I'm going to do also is show you that once you've created a quiz, you can preview it. You can get a feel for what the student's side of it is. Okay, so I'm going to click preview after I've clicked on the down arrow. All right, and we get to what I call the landing page. This is like the very beginning. It's just a lot of information. It's a little confusing. I've actually told my students in the past to just not look at anything other than time allowed and how many attempts. And we'll go over those in more detail as we go through it. All right, so we're going to click Start Quiz. Excuse me. As your kids would do. And I just want to show you some of the things that I've created in here. So first of all, you can embed pictures all over the place. Kim said they can even be the options in a multiple choice question. They can be anywhere, really. Anywhere where you would type something, a picture could go there instead. So I have an image and the instructions for the whole activity up here. And this is actually in a section of the quiz known as the header, which you'll see when we create our quizzes. And then I created, because there's 2 different question sets based off the problems from the worksheet, I created what we call sections inside of the quiz. Sections are useful for a couple of purposes. If I have question sets that all go together to the same scenario, maybe a reading or a photo or a video, I will put all of them in one section, and the text that goes along with the section divider really is what the students are going to focus on for the questions that follow. And then when I go down to the next section, there'll be some other set of instructions or some other reference material. This is really good for when as you're going through assessing them, you're providing feedback. You can start to notice trends like, oh, section 1, this class didn't do so great on. Let me look at the skills and the content that's connected to section 1 and reteach anything that I might have missed, because they seem to have gotten section 2 and 3 just fine. So what's the disconnect in section 1? Alternately, you can just divide up a quiz like or an assessment as you would something in class. Maybe you have all of your multiple choice questions first and all your free response will follow up, which is more akin to how a state assessment might be run. And the nice thing is you can even, once you created the sections and put questions in there, you can select to have it shuffle the questions within each section. So everyone's going to do multiple choice first, then free response, but they won't be in the same order. It gives a little bit more security to the assessment and makes it a little more valid. It makes any type of plagiarism a lot more complicated. Okay, so in this particular assignment, I've put in 4 questions only inside two sections. I've got a multiple choice question, followed by a place for a justification to your answer. I know that Common Core Math is big on justifying responses by using models, words, or equations. So the student has an opportunity to put that in here. And then I also have a true, false, and another place for a justification. Okay, and I actually took the structure of this from the instructions that were in the original worksheet, and I just kind of broke it up into the 2 different questions for each part. Okay, so I'm going to exit this preview, and now we're going to actually build one all from scratch. Okay, so we're going to click on New Quiz. And we will be going through most of these tabs, but we'll start with the basic thing, which is the name. And I'm going to call this the fractions video questions, because like I said, it doesn't have to be a formal quiz or an exam. It could be, here, I want you to watch this short video and I just want to see, quick formative assessment. What's going on right now? How well did you understand the things that you watched? Okay, real simple. Categories we touched on back on Wednesday. And if you missed any of that, you can go back to the recording. We're going to share all the recordings later on. I use categories inside of my quizzes a little differently. There's a couple of options that you have. You can not use them at all. That is an option. You can have categories based off of the topic. So math, arts, ELA, social studies, science, whatever you like. You could do it based off of the unit, fractions, the color wheel, animals and plants. Whatever you do, however you would organize things, it's up to you. In my class, I did it based off of the activity type. So I would do learning activities, things that are more formative and involve students not only demonstrating learning, but also picking up new content through experiential learning. So my labs would have been in there. Reading and video questions would be another topic, another category. And I also had one for tests and quizzes that were my summative assessments. Okay. Then we have add or edit questions. So you always have to be in this section to even edit any existing questions. When Kim was demonstrating earlier and she clicked on the wording of a question, all you got to see was a preview. If you want to edit it, it has to be in this view, okay? The drop downs here, I'm going to start with the one on the right because I think this might actually come in handy. Importing. You can create your own question library. You would do that by creating a question pool and then adding it to your question library. It's something that you can basically front load all your questions. And as we'll discuss in later sessions, you can even copy those from other teachers if you have access to their classes and use questions that other teachers have created, put them in your question library and and start making your quiz tool assignments from there. You can also upload a file. So if you have an external content provider, or if you find somewhere where there are questions that are exportable and then can be uploaded into an LMS, a learning management system, such as iLearnNYC, you can actually take those questions and upload them in bulk into your quizzes so that you can then use them inside of the assessments. But you're probably going to be spending most of your time in add. So starting from the bottom, question pool, it's just rapid fire making questions, and they're all going into your into your pool that you can use later on. The cool thing about that is if I have 20 questions that are multiple choice and I only want 10, I can go to question pool and say I want 10 of these that are in this folder of fractions multiple choice questions, and it will automatically select those 10 questions for you as like a test generator would. Okay, section we talked about, so you can click on section, and I'm going to demonstrate that a little later. And then new question. This is your meat and potatoes. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. So we talked about true, false, and multiple choice. They are very, very self-explanatory. You can select the correct answer as you're creating them. I'll show you that shortly, and it will auto-grade for you. Multi-select is nice. It's also auto-graded, but it lets students kind of show a little bit more of a thought process because there might be more than one right answer and they have to determine that. So keeping with our theme, one question might be, what is a fraction, or which of these choices represent fractions that are equal to 1/2? So I could have 1/3, 2/4, 5/7, and 3/6. Obviously there's 2 correct answers there, so the student would have to use click the 2 check boxes that indicate a correct answer there. And you'll even have the option of saying they have to get them both right to get any credit, or award partial credit for each correct answer. You can have it subtract if there's wrong answers. There's lots of options that go along with that. Whenever students have to type something in, personally, this is my preference, not a command or anything like that. I like using written response. It lets the students add as much as they want to, even if it doesn't require nearly as much. So I use written response most of the time. The thing is, short answer, multi-short answer, and fill in the blanks. Again, they're kind of self-explanatory, but the problem is they're set to auto-grade, but they're case sensitive, they're spelling sensitive, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So it might automatically mark something wrong that actually would be right if I were grading it by hand, which is why I prefer the written response, because that's something you personally provide a score for. The next 2, matching and ordering, I think are really cool. They don't need to be low-level questions. You know, if you're talking about some sort of a process skill and you've written out steps, or you have pictures that demonstrate steps in a process, and you ask students to put them in the proper order, that is higher order thinking, even though the question itself doesn't look that complex. Arithmetic and significant figures, I'll be honest with you, they're primarily going to be for upper level, high school and above courses. And even as a high school science teacher, I haven't found use for them. But here's the beauty. As you have these sandboxes in front of you, you have the ability to play around and to see what does everything look like and what do you need inside of your classroom. You can personalize what you choose to use. We're not mandating anything here. We're just saying all these tools are available. So use the time that you have to play, because you can't break anything by playing. You can delete a question if you don't like it. You can delete an entire quiz. Or if you wind up making something that's fantastic that you're really proud of, next week, you're gonna learn how to copy that from your sandbox into the live courses that you will receive in September that are based off of your STARS enrollments, okay? So play around, decide what is best for you and your students, because you're still the teacher and you get to make those decisions. We're gonna start with a true false. Now I told you before, we're gonna be doing a, actually I don't think I mentioned this. We're gonna be making a video quiz. So we watch the video, we answer some questions, how much are you paying attention? How much are you taking away from this? So really simple, true, false question. The bottom number of a fraction tells us the total number of parts. In this case, that is a true statement. So I use the radio button to select the right answer. And it should be noted that over on the right-hand side here, we have a preview of what your students will see, how they will see it. So you'll see any pictures or videos or anything like that that you enter over in the right side preview. There's a lot of options that you can add. I only focus ever on the top two, feedback. So you can auto feedback. Maybe, you know, good job, the bottom number is called the denominator. And that tells us how many pieces a whole was divided into. The hint could be, this is the denominator, what is its purpose? You know, there's a lot of that you can do. Like if you were walking by while a student was doing an assessment of some sort and they kind of tugged on your arm or raised their hand, they said, I don't understand this question. What kind of hints would you give your students? So by default, hints are turned off, but you can turn them on for your kit, for all of your students, okay? Now, when you're done with writing a question, you want to save it. But in this little drop down, there's save and new, and then there's also save and copy. Save and new will give you a blank version of the question type that you are currently working on. In this case, it'll give me a blank true false. Save and copy will give you an exact duplicate of that question in the next window. That's good if you're making small changes. I'm going to show you that in the next question. But since I want to change my question type, I'm just going to click save. Okay, and then I'm going to add a new question, and this time it's going to be multiple choice. And this question is going to be, what do we call one piece out of 3 total pieces? Is that 1/2? Is that 1/4? Is that 1/4? I intentionally use 1/4 and 1/4, even though they are the same value, because the video differentiates between the fact that, like, we say a quarter most of the time in our day-to-day lives, but it would be 1/2 or 1/4 in a more math-focused school setting. Or is it going to be 1/3? And obviously, because it's 1 out of 3, I would select 1/3. In this multiple choice thing, I can randomize the answers for every student. I can also change the number of points if I wanted to. I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, so I have my correct answer. I've selected to have it randomized. And now I'm going to change this up, and I'm going to do save and copy. So now it's the exact same question that I just wrote, but I'm going to change this 3 to a 2. My correct answer obviously changed to 1/2. But this time, I want to add something. Maybe my students are a little bit younger. They're having some issues with reading, and they have an easier time seeing the numbers. So I want to add the actual fraction, the numerical equivalent to 1/2. Whenever I'm in one of these answer boxes, I can edit the text to bold, underline, italics, underlined. I can add pictures, just like Kim mentioned before. I can add video notes or pretty much anything else that I can get from an insert stuff. And I can also click on this little sigma and get different types of equations. You're probably not going to be using chemistry equations, math equations, LaTeX equations at the elementary level. But when we go to the graphical equation, it's not just y equals mx plus b. It gives you a way to format fractions and radicals. That's a little more upper level. Exponents too. Maybe if you just want to show like 3 plus 4 or dividing symbols, less than, greater than. We've got exponents and absolute value. Maybe you don't need to use all these. Maybe you will find a use for them. But when you click on this little fraction thing, now I have those two boxes that will let me enter in 1/2 and then insert it. And looking at my answer text box, it looks a little wonky. That half is really up high, but when I look at the preview, I can see that it's right in line and it looks a lot neater. And that's what my students are going to see. So I'm just going to show you that a couple times so I can finish up and have this question be consistent. 1/4, insert, sigma, fractions, 1/4, insert, and then sigma, fractions, and this time, oops, oh, it'll be 1/3, insert. And again, I'm going to have my answer choices randomized. So even though I started with the same base question, the order of the answers is going to be different for question 2 and question 3. And I'm going to do save because I'm done with that question type for this assignment. And the next one I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a written response, even though the answer that the student is going to give me is pretty short. Okay, so name one item, one everyday item from the video that we often use fractions with. Okay, and now that's in my preview. There is a spell check on all written response text boxes. And if I needed my students to give me a little bit more than just words, maybe I want them to include a picture, maybe I want them to include a video note so they can speak their answer instead of just writing it out. Well, you can click Enable HTML Editor, and now they can use insert stuff or include a picture or a link. But I don't need that because I know that the answer for this is going to be pretty short. Now I chose the written response for this question because there's like 6 or 7 different possible answers, and it's harder to put correct answers where there's so many options. This is something that is easier for me to score on my own. And because it's a written thing and not just multiple choice of true false, I'll give that an extra point and make it out of 2. Now I'm going to save. And I have all of the questions that I want, so I'm going to go back to the settings, and now we're going to go through all the other options for the quizzes, okay? So if I want, I can actually make paging. So, you know, I only have 4 questions per page or 1 question per page. That may be good for the little students, the younger students, because they're less distracted by all the other stuff. It's just 1 per page. Makes it less, there's less going on. That's something you can choose to do. You can have 1 page per section. There's a lot of different options that you can choose from there. And then we get down to description and introduction, and then also header and footer. The description and the introduction are not necessary, and I don't find them as helpful. They show up on that landing page when the students first start a quiz. And I want my instructions, and certainly any resources, be it a reading passage, an image, a video, and instructions to all be visible during the quiz. But everything that's on that landing page goes away during the quiz. It's not as helpful. So I'm going to turn them on right now, only to show you where they show up when we take it from the quiz from the student side. So this is the description, and then this is the introduction. Now you may have noticed that all of these are by default, the radio button says off. So you have to actually go in and actively turn any of these things on, including the page header and footer. And this is where, if I have a resource that is going to be used for the entire assignment, I'm going to put that resource in the header. It will always be at the top of my screen. If I have something that only pertains to one section, I'll put that in the section text when I add the section, because each section will have its own resources. So let's say, for example, I just want you to watch the video below and then answer the questions that follow. Okay, and then I'm going to push enter to get my cursor where I want my video to go. Just going to move something real quick out of the way. All right, now I have already found the video that I want on YouTube. I'm going to highlight it, the web address, the URL, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to go to Insert Stuff, and I'm going to go to Insert Link. Now, that's not the only way to get a video in. Maybe I want to have a video note. Maybe it's something I'm saying. Maybe it's me reading, and I want them to answer questions. Like I'm reading a passage out loud. That's an option. Insert link is great for getting YouTube videos in, but we saw from the feedback and some questions that we saw the other day, some of you are concerned about whether or not YouTube is available in your school building. I know that that's an issue within the DOE. If you find videos from other resources, they normally will have somewhere in their sharing options an embed code. And if you copy that embed code, you can put it right in here where it says enter embed code. YouTube, though, is nice and easy. You just take insert link, you paste in that URL, and then you click next. Scrolling down, there's my preview. I know it got the right video. I can click insert, and it's done. I don't really use the footer that often because when do you normally have something that's on the bottom of every single page? I don't think it's necessary, but that's, again, me. I mentioned before, you can allow the hints. It's not turned on by default, but you can put it right here. Disabling right click is for your more savvy students and probably the older ones, because it keeps them from being able to highlight, copy and paste text over into Google in order to search for answers. Hopefully that's not an issue. I tend to leave alone disable email, instant message, and alerts, simply because that's communication within the iLearnNYC platform. And in general, it's not something that we used. I told you last time I don't like the notification email because my inbox just gets too flooded and I can't take all of that noise. We're gonna go back up to the top to our restrictions. Okay, I don't want it hidden. I will put a due date. Let's say it's due on the 3rd at whatever time. We can just leave that alone. Remember that the availability, it won't be accessible before the start date, and it won't be accessible after the end date. If you decide to use these, you can actually have it so it pushes the quiz into the calendar so students can see on their calendar widget on the homepage when things are open for being used. Just keep in mind, you can only put an assignment on the calendar if it has a start date or an end date. Without that, it gets grayed out. That is not an option anymore. Release conditions is something that's going to be covered in session 6 next week. But it's an if-then statement. If you haven't done this, then you can't see this assignment exists. Or if you have done it, then you finally can see it. For example, if you have not posted to the discussion board, then you cannot get to this assignment. We'll talk about that more next time, okay? Passwords are kind of neat. If you're doing a proctored exam, you're timing it. It has to be done within this period, this time, all together now. If you put a password on it and then you say, okay, guys, you may now begin. The password is frog. Everyone types in frog. Now they can access it. They can't, you can leave it visible because they can't get into it without the password. So that's something that's useful if you're trying to get everyone kind of doing it all at once. Timing. Automatically, every single assignment defaults to 2 hours, 120 minutes, and it's recommended, not enforced. If I want to enforce it, I can click on that. And let's say this takes 25 minutes, but I'm going to give you a 5-minute kind of grace period almost. That's the flag time. After the grace period, flag the quiz attempt has exceeded the time limit, and I can either let them keep going, but it's going to know that it was over the time limit, I can prevent the student from making further changes, so it stops them dead in their tracks. Whatever was done during time is what got done. Honestly, that's pretty consistent with how Regents exams go. So if you're a little bit higher up in the, your students are a little bit older, then maybe you want to start getting them practice to like, when you're done, you're done. Or they can keep working, but it's just going to be a 0 because they ran out of time. I think that's overly punitive. And then we talked about special access before. Students with IEPs or 504s who need extended time. A lot of these date and time settings get set specifically for them. Okay. The assessment tab, once you have your gradebooks up and running, which is a later session, these top 3 start to make sense. The 5 out of 5, that's how many points I have. So this is going to be how they see it. Though you can edit display settings. I leave that alone for the most part. Kim spoke to attempts. I've had students who just didn't like the quiz, the grade that they got, and they want an opportunity to take it again. Or we were doing a lab and someone clicked submit too early, or they missed part of it and they want to give it another go. I can change the number of attempts. Just keep in mind that if I make it so that there's 3 attempts, that means every single student in the class now has 3 attempts on this quiz. And 2 specific standards. This one, the submission views, I think is important. It looks super daunting. I'm going to go back for just 1 second, okay? I'm going to count the number of clicks to make this change. Now, this is what it does under submission views. When I'm done grading, my student will get a grade, 2 out of 5, for example. By default, they don't know where they lost the 3 points. They just know they only got 2 out of 5. That's not good for growth. So if I'm using this as formative assessment, how do they know where to improve? If that's all they see is the grade and not any of the other bits. It's important to know where mistakes were made. So we're going to count how many clicks it takes to change it, even though that next tab looks super intimidating. Submission views, that's going to be my first click. So we're at 1. And default view, 2. And we're going to scroll up a little bit to go to view details. Yes, that's 3. Now, everything that's in this box, I don't care. I'm leaving it alone. Save. 4 clicks to make it so that my students now have a better idea of where they can improve going forward. I'm going to leave report set up alone because that can honestly be done from multiple points in the quiz management, and it's a little bit more advanced. So I'm going to leave that be. Now, when I'm done with my quiz, I have to save and close. If I don't save it, it goes bye-bye, and I have cried over that way too many times this past school year. Save and close. In fact, it's one of those like save early, save often, because if I'm in the middle of something and I click save and close, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to do something. Super easy to go back. All you have to do is click on the title from the managed quizzes, and now I'm back into the settings. So I can do all of I can go back and change anything I like. Okay. Or if you go, oh wait, there was a typo when you're looking at a preview, go back and edit it. No worries. Okay, I'm gonna take like 5 minutes and create one more quiz just to show you some other options, some other ways of doing things. Okay, this is another one that I stole from We Teach NYC, and it's all about the Penguin Ice Cream Company. I told you I was having a sugar rush. And I'm gonna do add edit questions. Okay, just gonna change that up a little bit. I'm gonna start with a section. Because this particular assignment had multiple problem sets with different instructions and different like introductions, I like doing sections for problem sets. So this one is actually called the Penguin Bar. Okay. And I could call it anything, because if I wanted to, I could just hide this, but you have to write something. the section text. This is where I'm going to put my introduction and an image. Penguin Ice Cream Company sells assorted packages of ice cream. Popular Penguin Bar is sold in packages of 6. Now, you could be copying and pasting this from other assignments. I took a screenshot of the whole thing just so I had it available. I could even paste the whole screenshot, but by having the text written and not just an image, screen readers and translators will actually be able to pick up the text. If it's just an image, it won't be able to. I also want to have a picture in here of the ice cream bars, because they're going to be the basis of my question. So I'm going to go over here to insert picture or add image, and it's on my computer. I'm going to upload. There it is. Add. Alternative text is good for screen readers. So 2 fudge bars, 3 vanilla swirl, and 1 orange cream. Okay. I could have just said these were the penguin bars, but a screen reader will actually tell someone who's visually impaired what that alternative text is, and that way if they can't see the pictures, they at least can hear what they are and then be able to do the work. Now, I could hide it. I obviously don't want to because this is instructional, and I can shuffle the questions within the section should I so choose. But for now, I'm just going to click save. Okay, and then I'm going to add a new question, and this time I'm going to show you how to do a, let's see. Let's do matchup. Okay, you don't have to give it a title, but the questions that I'm going to ask is basically how to asking students to match fractions to the flavors, like how much of the box is fudge, how much of the box is vanilla swirl. So because there's 3 different flavors, I want to make sure that there's 3 different points, that for every correct one they get a point. Difficulty, you can level your questions, which would be really good for giving feedback to parents, or even if you have kid talk about like, what are these kids' strengths and weaknesses? Maybe they can't really do the 3 and the 4 level questions yet. So that's a skill that we have to work on, is getting those deeper DOK questions out of the way. All right, so that's something you can play with. In this case, I'm just gonna say, match each flavor with the fraction of the whole box that they represent. Okay, scroll up. Here's where that grading choice comes in. Do I want equally weighted, all or nothing, or right minus wrong? All or nothing is overly punitive. I don't really play that way, so I'm going to do equally weighted. And then we have our choices. Okay, or our values, excuse me. There are, by default, only 2 that it's showing, so I need to add 1. All I have to do is click Add Choice. If I wanted to add 4 more choices, I would have put a 4 in that box. So this would be 4, and it would add that many. Okay, there's a couple places throughout iLearnNYC where you can add things and you have that little box. You just have to tell it how many you want to add rather than clicking over and over again. So in here, we're going to type fudge, vanilla swirl, orange cream, or maybe they'd do better with pictures. If I had 1 picture of each of the penguin bars, I could put that in using insert image. And then the match to the choice. Okay, again, there's only 2, so I have to add 1. And in here, I'm going to put the fractions. I can expand this to full screen if I want to see more of the tools. I don't have to. I can toggle that back. There's always spell check and preview of the question itself. So I think, oops, sorry about that. I think I'm going to ask my students to be able to reduce their fractions. So fudge had 2 out of 6 or 1 out of 3. The vanilla swirl had 1 out of 2 or 3 out of 6. And the orange cream was 1 out of 6. Now, this one, this column here, correct choice, asks you to match 1 out of 3 to the choice from up above. I put them in the same order automatically. It just makes sense. It makes it easier for me. Plus, the matches are going to be randomized, so it doesn't really matter. Create it how it's easiest for you, and then do all the other stuff later. Under question hint, maybe I want to say, remember to reduce your fractions, right? And then I'll save that. And I'm going to move the question into the section just the same way that you moved content that you would have done on Tuesday, I believe. You take it, you drag it so that it looks like it is indented, and now the image, the picture is indented underneath that section. If I had more questions, this would become even more important. But for now, I'm going to say that my adding questions is done. There were other parts, but I don't need to worry about them at the moment. Under restrictions, I'm going to take away the hiding. I'm not going to do a due date just yet. And I'm going to make it so that everyone can take 2 attempts. And I'm going to apply that. Okay, and I'll save and close. So in the next couple minutes, I am going to go kind of fast because we've only got about more than 20 minutes left, and we do have a few more things to work on. I'm going to switch my screen quickly, and I'm going to show you the student side. So let's get into the student screen. Here we go. I'm currently logged into the class as student 30. And Kim is going to show you how to put your quizzes and worksheets and whatnot into the content section so that it's easier for the students, but it can also be accessed through the toolkit here by going to quizzes. And it takes me to the list of all the quizzes. Now here's fractions videos question with 3 attempts, Penguin Ice Cream Company with 2. And as a student, all I need to do is click on the title. It'll take me to that landing page. I showed you before, there's that description that I turned on. It's at the top. It's not helpful all that much. It does say that I only have 25 minutes. It says I have 3 attempts and I haven't tried any of them. It shows me my due date. Those are really the only things that I think students need to focus on. The introduction, look how it's buried among all this other stuff. That's why I don't use it. And these instructions, they're the same instructions for every single quiz tool assignment. It's not even worth it. But it does say the timer will not begin until after the setup process is finished. In other words, after the next page loads. So if I click Start Quiz, now my timer has started. I have my video here, and it will play. Okay, so just to prove that that works for you. All right, I'm going to pause it. I'm just going to go through the first couple questions real super fast. The bottom number of fraction tells us the total number of parts. I'm going to say that that's true. 1 piece out of 3. Let's intentionally get that wrong and say it's a 4th. What do we call 1 out of 2? That is going to be 1/2. Now, as I've answered those questions, a couple things happen. Next to the question, there's a little check mark that says saved, and the question numbers over here will pop up with a little check mark. The nice thing is if a student loses connection, leaves for whatever reason, as long as their time left has not expired, they can come back to the same exact spot in this quiz in another session and pick up right where they left off without losing any of their progress. I love that. Okay, and then name one everyday item from the video. I remember seeing a cherry pie, so I'm going to type that in. I can do a spell check. No misspelled words for English. I can even check other languages, which is awesome. So if I have students who need to type in another language, go for it. And now I've saved, I have a check mark under all my questions. I have 4 out of 4 questions saved. I'm going to click submit. Do not click submit until you are actually done, because it will just take everything else and make it blank. Are you sure you want to do it? Once you press it again, can't return to the quiz. Yes. Okay, I'm done. So let me go back to the teacher side. And I'm going to refresh this Manage Quizzes page very quickly. And we'll see that my fractions video questions now have, in this column, 0 out of 1, which means I have 1 submission and I have not published any feedback for it. I click on the drop down. I can go to grade. The other option would be to go through quick eval, which I showed you on Wednesday. Now I see that there is an attempt from student 30 demo. It's the first attempt. And auto scored, I got a 2 out of 5. Let's see what happens when I dive into that a little bit more. Okay, so it took 1 minute and 40 seconds, even though I had up to 30 minutes really to do it. So far, my grade is 2 out of 5. And I can look at each question individually. I answered true on number 1 and it is correct, so I got 1 point. I answered 1/4 on question 2, it is wrong. I did not get a point, I got a 0 here. Okay, so here are my 2 points, numbers 1 and 3. Cherry pie, that is full credit answer. If it was a partial credit, I could do 1. I could do 1.5 if I wanted to. Whatever partial credit amount that I want to give, I can, and it will auto-calculate the final score. For each question, I can give feedback and that includes the multiple choice and anything auto-graded. I can do it as a video note, as an image. I can include links. Everything that we've seen before in HTML editors can go in your feedback for individual questions, as well as up here at the top, the overall attempt feedback. So now I have a 4 out of 5, which is a lot better, but I can still say, why don't you rewatch the video and try again for full credit? You're so close. And publish. Now, if I went back into the student side, they would be able to see all of my feedback in there. Okay, I'm going to hand it back over to Kim. She's going to give you a short task, show you how to put the quiz into the content, and then go over Zoom to finish us up.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, so we just have a small task for you to work on. I believe that the best way to learn is to do. So we would like you to take what we presented and very quickly, it doesn't have to be math related. It could be about anything, maybe something you want to use for September. You're going to create 1 multiple choice question, 1 true false question, and 1 question of any other type, whether it be matching, order, written response, or short response. Okay, we will be here to answer any questions. We'll give you a few minutes just to create something quick, just to feel comfortable with the tools that we presented to you today. Okay.
as you're working over the next few minutes, feel free to ask any questions that pop up. We're going to be manning the Q&A in the meantime. And just to reiterate, we are having office hours from 3 to 4. We will be sending out the link in the chat, and it'll be in the presentation slides. If you feel like you want a little bit more one-on-one attention, please feel free to join us. We're there for an hour, and we're happy to help.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, now you have this assessment, how do we add it into content? So it's very simple. It's just like we showed you adding an assignment to your content. It's the same idea. So we're going to go back into our content area. Okay, we're going to click on the math unit because it is a math assessment. Now we already have the assessment created, so we're going to go click on the Add Existing tab. We're going to click on the Quiz tab, and then we're going to choose the quiz that we would like to enter into our unit. So I'll click on the fractions quiz, and there it is. Now, you can keep it hidden if you are not ready for the students to take the assessment, or you can toggle it so the students have views to it. Then click the arrow, and it's neatly back into the folder. So it's very simple for the students to work on it. They're not clicking everywhere. Everything is in a nice flow right in front of them. Now, another thing I'd like to go over is how to use the Zoom icon on the Nav Bar. So what you must do, you have to make sure, and we've included this in the slide deck, that you are logged into NYCDOE.zoom.us as well as your students. Now from here, I'm going to take you back. Okay, we're going to click on the Zoom icon, and it's going to take us to the Zoom screen within iLearn. I'm going to schedule a new meeting. Okay. Now with the topic, you can name your meeting whichever name you'd like to give it, whether it be possibly the name of your class, the name of the section. That's entirely up to you. You do not have to put a description. It is optional. And here is where you schedule when you would like the class to meet. Now, if you're meeting with the class every day, let's just say, you would put it as a recurring meeting, and you could schedule it for how often you would like. Possibly you want it weekly. Okay, maybe you want to twice a week, let's just say, and then you would put the days that you would like to meet. And you could schedule this for about a month in advance, which is a great tool. Okay, you see it stops afterwards. It won't allow me to schedule past that. Okay, which is great. It's a great feature to have. Okay, now when the students in the beginning, first time enter, they will need a passcode to enter. My advice to you, make it very simple. It has to be a six digit numeric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very easy. Okay. When the students are about to enter the room, they are not allowed in the room unless you admit them into the room. So you will have to admit them into the room. Also, they will be muted upon entry, so you will have to unmute them if you'd like them to contribute into the class discussion or ask or answer a question. Also, what I would suggest is to enable the chime so you can hear if a student is waiting to be led into the room, because you could be conducting your lesson and not realize that there's a student waiting. And that's pretty much it. Press save. And it's saved. Your meeting is ready to go. And then what you would do is you would have, just like you entered today, the same thing for the students. You're going to give them this link, and that's how they will enter the room. Again, that will happen in September when you set up your courses. Now, I want to give you a preview of what's to come next week in session 6. Okay, so in session 6, we're going to help you to personalize your homepage and your learning for your students. We're going to use group and release conditions. We want to make sure that each student, you know, their individual needs are met. Maybe you want to break them up into groups by skill, possibly giving students with an IEP or 504 extra time. So we're going to show you how to do that with groups. We're also going to show you how to customize your homepage and how to use replacement strings to personalize your page for each student that signs on. We're going to show you how to edit your Nav Bar, how to add customized icons. For instance, possibly Brain Pop. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to show you how to create awards and badges to increase student engagement. Kids love to receive these little icons when they complete something. And finally, we're going to show you how to copy work from one course section to another. So for instance, let's just say there are 5 second grade teachers and you're working on a unit together and you break up the unit. For instance, Brian and I are working on something and I said, okay, Brian, I'm going to complete the assessments for decimals. Why don't you complete the assessments for fractions? And then once I have access to his course page, I can go into his course page, take those questions and put them into my course. So it's a really neat feature. At the end of session 6, we will give you a link where you can obtain your CTL survey to obtain your CTLE hours. Okay. As Brian mentioned, we will be in the office from 3 to 4 today. We will put the link to our office hours in the chat.
I have sent the link, both the links that are visible there for the feedback survey.
Awesome, thank you.
Please provide feedback. I'm going to just add to that you are cohort 204 and this is session 5. Each session has its own link. I already have that link, Kim.
Oh, you put this already. Excellent.
Yeah,
I did promise it to one of the participants. Awesome.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah,
So
it's in there.
It's really great. So I'll show them while you're speaking, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
great.
the feedback survey helps us help you. It tells us what was good, what was bad, so we can improve the professional learning that you guys receive. So please, you know, be as honest as you need to be. And if you've missed the feedback survey for any prior sessions, they're still in the drop down. You just have to go when it asks for the session to the drop down and do 204 session 5 for today, session 4 for yesterday, and so on going back. The first bit.ly link that's there, the 3 IKEOZ capital S, and it is case sensitive. That's to get into our Zoom office hours, which are going to start in less than 20 minutes. The feedback survey is there. That's a tiny URL. And then I put in another bit.ly/iLearnNYC. And that one is this page that Kim is showing right now, which has all of the plans for the phases of trainings to get you guys up and running to the best you can. And it also has recordings and links to the slideshow. Did I just see that one needs to be shared? Kim, can you go back one slide or one page? The back button?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. I just happened to notice something. Can you scroll
It's
down?
spinning. This one right here, Brian.
No, there. Yeah, because it's going to say that it's no. The next one, the portfolio, would say we need access. So we're gonna.
The portfolio. Yeah, the portfolio will have to upload.
We just need to have someone fix the rights on that. Okay, so we'll get that one fixed. But all the other ones, they are there, even if they're going a little slow. All right. If you have any further questions in our last 2 or so minutes, please type them in the Q&A. Otherwise, we just need about 15 minutes or so in the chat room if you want a little more personalized help. And please keep in mind, we also have links from that slideshow, the name and contact information of 2 of our amazing implementation managers who are here with us, Arlene and Natalie. They are the bestest. They'll be joined by 3 more during the regular school year, and that whole team is great. We have our social media information, an email address for iLearnNYC at schools, a help desk phone number, link to our newsletter, and on the previous slide, there's a bunch of bullet pointed things, and all of those links, including the ones from D2L who build the platform that iLearnNYC was built upon. There's just great resources, little bite-sized nuggets that are super easy to digest and focus on your needs in that moment. I particularly recommend the D2L community page because the people who are on there, some of them are professionals from D2L, some of them are classroom teachers, and everyone is really super willing to help out any questions that people have.
Just know that you have a lot of support and never a bother. We had a lot of questions in the beginning because it was new to us as well. So the only way to learn is by asking. So we are here to help, and hopefully we'll see some of you later. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And once again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.